Okay, so forget what you think you know about cat communication. Seriously. For years, we figured, it was all about purrs, meows, maybe a swishy tail. But it turns out there's this whole secret language hiding in plain sight, right there on their faces, especially when they're talking to each other. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take some really fascinating sources and, well, we unpack them for you. Today, we are getting into the nitty-gritty of a pretty groundbreaking 2023 paper. It's called Feline Faces, Unraveling the Social Function of Domestic Cat Facial Signals by Lauren Scott and Brittany Florkiewicz. Our mission today, to really pull out the precise facial cues cats use, how they signal friendship or maybe conflict specifically to other cats. You're basically getting the ultimate shortcut to understanding feline social dynamics. And honestly, it will change how you see every cat you meet from now on. So we're going to explore why this research is so important, how they actually did it, the surprising stuff they found, and what it all means for how we understand cat social lives and that big question of domestication. So to start us off, when you think about cat communication, what usually springs to mind first?
Right. Well, most of the research before this really looked at how cats interact with us, with humans,
Hmm.
or maybe how their faces show pain, things like that.
Okay.
But what's truly fascinating here is this big gap. We knew very little about how cats communicate face-to-face with each other,
Yeah.
especially in those friendly or what scientists call affiliative contexts.
Affiliative, like being buddies.
Exactly. And this brings up a really interesting question. How did domestication change things? How did it reshape cat communication? The main idea, the theory, is that living closer together, maybe because of humans, pushed cats to rely more on these friendly facial signals, for social bonding.
Hmm.
If you look across mammals' facial structure, the muscles underneath, they allow for really complex visual signals. And
Yeah.
these signals are super varied depending on how a species lives. Its social setup.
Can you give an example?
Sure, like you see relaxed, open-mouthed faces in some carnivores, even primates, often used to kind of signal play, tone things down. We even know that domesticated dogs, they actually show changes in facial muscles compared to wolves, like that inner brow puppy dog eyes thing.
Right. So domestication really leaves a mark. But how do you even study cat faces accurately? They're so
Uh-huh.
subtle sometimes.
That's where this really specialized tool comes in handy. It's called the Facial Action Coding System, or CAT-FACS for short.
Cat
I can give
FACS.
it like a super detailed decoder ring for cat expressions.
Rosetta Stone, kinda?
Exactly. It's a standardized way to identify tiny movements in facial muscles. They call these action units, or AUS, and it's how these AUs combine that creates a specific signal.
Ah, so it's much more precise than just saying the cat looks happy or angry.
Precisely. It lets researchers connect the dots between a social function like playing or warning another cat off and the actual physical way the face moves during that cat-to-cat signal.
Okay, so they had this powerful tool, Cat FACS. How did they actually use it? Where did they observe these cats? Not out on the savannah, I guess.
Huh. No, not quite. The study took place somewhere much more accessible. They observed 53 adult domestic short-hair cats at the Cat Cafe Lounge in Los Angeles.
A cat cafe. Interesting choice.
Yeah, and actually ideal for this. It's a nonprofit rescue. It's got this open indoor area, even an outdoor catio. And usually there are about 20 to 30 cats living together there, all up for adoption.
So a real social environment.
Exactly. It provided tons of opportunities to see intraspecific communication cats interacting naturally with other cats, not just humans coming in and out.
And what exactly were they recording? Just watching them hang out?
They used video recordings, but they did it after the cafe's visiting hours.
Ah, to minimize human interference.
Right. To maximize the chances of catching genuine cat-to-cat interactions. And crucially, they only coded facial signals that were clearly directed towards another cat. They filtered out things like, facial movements for breathing or yawning, or if the cat was looking at a person or just a toy.
Got it. Purely cat-on-cat facial chat. And how did they sort these interactions? Friendly versus not so friendly?
They used two main categories. Affiliative, which covers all the friendly stuff, mutual grooming, rubbing against each other, playing, sniffing noses, even just resting near each other.
Okay.
And then non-affiliative, that's the less friendly stuff, staring, defensive postures, hissing, biting, that sort of thing.
So going into this, the researchers had a couple of key predictions, right? Based on that idea about domestication making cats more social with each other.
Yes, two main predictions. The first one, P1, was about complexity. They thought that maybe friendly affiliative signals would be more complex, use more muscle movements, more AUs than the non-affiliative ones.
Okay, so friendly faces, more complex faces. What was the second prediction?
The second one, P2, was about compositionality. This is about the specific types of AUs used. They predicted that the combination of facial movements would be different between friendly and unfriendly signals. Different recipes of AUs, if you like.
Right. Different ingredients for different messages. So they collected all this video, coded everything. What did the raw numbers look like?
It was a pretty solid data set. Over 194 minutes of video coded. That resulted in 688 distinct facial signals. It was almost perfectly split, actually. About 51.5% affiliative, 48.5% non-affiliative.
Wow. Pretty balanced.
Yeah. And from that, they identified 26 unique action units, those basic muscle movements. But here's a really striking bit. They found 276 different combinations of these AUs.
276 distinct expressions. That's way more than I would have guessed.
It's a lot, right? And get this, only 48 of those combinations, that's just over 17%, were seen in both friendly and unfriendly contexts.
So most expressions were clearly one or the other.
The vast majority, yeah.
Yeah.
They were pretty much exclusive signals, which already hints that compositionality might be important.
Okay, so let's talk about that first prediction then. Complexity. Did friendly faces turn out to be more complex?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Because, no, that prediction wasn't supported by the data.
Really?
Yeah. The average number of AUs used per signal was basically the same. No statistically significant difference. In fact, if anything, the friendly affiliative signals had slightly fewer AUs on average, about 3.87 versus 3.93 for non-affiliative.
That's completely counterintuitive. So a friendly hello isn't necessarily more complex than a back-off face. Why might that be?
Well, if we look at the bigger picture, cats overall seem to have relatively limited facial mobility compared to, say, humans or even some other mammals. That average of around 3.9 AUs per signal is actually kind of similar to what you see in some primates. So it suggests that maybe facial complexity isn't about the immediate friendly, unfriendly context of that specific interaction. It might be more linked to the species' general social structure, like how complex is their society overall, how big are their groups. Maybe that's what drives complexity, more than just this one signal.
Fascinating. So complexity was a dead end, relatively speaking. But what about prediction number 2? Compositionality. Did the types of movements matter?
No, this is where they hit gold. This prediction was strongly supported.
Oh, okay.
Yes. There were significant, clear differences in the kinds of AUs, the specific muscle movements, used in friendly versus unfriendly contexts. This is where the real story is.
So break it down for us. What does the typical friendly cat face look like, according to this, based on the AUs?
Right. So the affiliative signals, the friendly faces, they tended to involve movements that are sort of restful or that make it easier to hear or touch, things that invite closer contact. The key AUs popping up were ears pulled closer together, kind of adducted.
Yeah.
Ears also move forward, whiskers push forward, and eyes closing or partially closing, like that famous slow blink.
The slow blink. So it really is a friendly signal between cats, too, not just towards us.
It seems very likely, based on this data. It's part of that affiliative cluster. Ears forward, whiskers forward, eyes soft. It's an approach me kind of signal.
That's amazing. So if that's the friendly face, what about the non-affiliative, the warning or keep away face? What AUs define that?
The non-affiliative signals often involved protective movements, like shielding the eyes or ears, which are vulnerable, or movements linked to getting ready for a fight, what they call agonistic encounters.
Makes sense.
So the key AUs here were things like ears rotating outwards or backwards,
Yeah, you see that.
ears flattening down against the head, that classic airplane ears look, pupils constricting, becoming slits, maybe focusing intently, and also this distinct lip wipe or licking action.
Lip wipe. Never specifically noticed that as a warning.
It was significantly associated with non-affiliative contexts in this study. So you see, knowing these specific cues, it can really help you decode what's going on between cats.
Absolutely. Especially if you have multiple cats at home or work in a shelter, you could potentially spot tension brewing just by looking at these subtle facial changes. Maybe step in before things escalate.
Exactly. It gives you a much more nuanced understanding of their social dynamics.
So zooming out again, what's the big picture here? What does this tell us about domestication's role in shaping how cats talk to each other with their faces?
Well, the big takeaway really is that domestication likely played a pretty significant role in developing this repertoire of facial signals, especially the affiliative ones.
Because living with humans, or at least near humans, meant cats were interacting more often.
Probably. Domestication likely led to situations with more cats living in closer proximity, maybe competing less intensely for resources in some cases, or needing to cooperate more. This would create more opportunities and perhaps a greater need for varied social interactions.
And so they may have either started using existing subtle signals more often or even developed new, specifically friendly facial signals.
That's the idea. These affiliative signals become really important for managing those social relationships, reducing stress. You mentioned multi-cat households. Think about things like alloparenting, where female cats might help care for kittens that aren't their own. Those bonds require clear, friendly communication.
Yeah, complex social interactions need complex, or at least clear, communication tools. So this research feels like a really important piece of the puzzle.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
But like all good science, it also raises more questions and points towards what needs to be studied next.
Right. No study is perfect. What were some of the limitations here, and where does the research go from this point?
Well, a key limitation is that it focused on just one population of cats in a specific rescue cafe setting.
Which might not be typical.
Exactly. You have a somewhat unstable group cats coming and going as they get adopted. It's also harder to track detailed demographics like exact age, breed background, or how long they've known each other.
Okay.
So the next big step is to see if these findings hold up in other situations. Researchers need to look at stable, long-term, multi-cat households.
People's homes.
Yes, and also other shelters, maybe different setups. And importantly, free-ranging cat populations too, to see how environment influences these signals. It's always a challenge studying cats that are not always the most cooperative subjects.
I can only imagine trying to get clear facial recordings.
It takes patience. And then the really big evolutionary question is about the link to domestication.
How do we prove that link?
The best way would be direct comparisons with wild cats, the domestic cat's closest wild relatives, like the African or European wildcat.
To see if they use these same affiliative signals or if it's something that really emerged or became more prominent after domestication.
Precisely. But to do that properly, we need to develop a similar cat FACS system, specifically for wildcats, which is a whole other challenge.
Wow, a wildcat FCS, that would be
Yeah.
something.
It really would be a game changer for understanding that evolutionary pathway. So, yeah, the full picture of cat communication, still very much an unfolding mystery. But this deep dive definitely gives you, the listener, a significant head start in understanding those feline faces.
Okay, so let's recap. We've done a deep dive into the really nuanced world of cat facial expressions. And the key finding isn't about complexity-friendly and unfriendly faces use about the same number of muscle movements. Instead, it's all about compositionality. The specific types of movements, the unique combinations tell a very clear story. Ears forward, whiskers forward, soft eyes for hello, ears back, pupils slit, maybe a lip lick for warning. And it seems pretty clear that domestication really has shaped how our feline companions talk to each other.
Definitely influenced it.
So, here's a final thought for you to chew on. Next time you see a cat interacting with another cat, maybe in your own home, maybe out the window, pause and really look at their faces. Ask yourself, are you seeing just a whisper of the wild there, a leftover signal from their more solitary ancestors? Or are you actually witnessing a language that's been uniquely shaped by thousands of years living alongside us? A language developed specifically for building stronger social bonds? And maybe think about how understanding these subtle cues could help all of us foster even better, more harmonious relationships in our own multi-cat homes. Something to watch for.